Hi, I'm Jeff Bermudez.
And I'm Omar Kadri.
Welcome to The Collective Journey.
Join us as we explore some of the most promising talents, thought leaders, and change influencers in our city and beyond.
As we uncover these hidden gems, I hope you'll find that they're people just like you and I, with hopes and dreams and gifts that they would like to show to the world.
It is our mission to share their work, to share their story, and to appreciate what our community is capable of producing.
This is my adventure.
This is your adventure.
This is our collective journey.
Welcome back to another episode of Collective Journey. Last week we began our interview with video game design student Dan Drouillard. Today we continue that conversation. We talk about being self-taught and discuss the future of gaming. Let's have a listen. Another new trend that I've been seeing is designing for disability.
Oh yeah,
That's
for
like
sure.
that was a whole new perspective when I learned about that. Like a lot of gamers are colorblind, and because of the whole the tradition is red is the bad guy, green is the good guy.
Yeah,
and that affects a gamer's ability to someone who's colorblind to get that fixed.
yeah. I mean, one of the ones that stands out to me just because it's the one that I've played the most in Destiny and Destiny 2. There's a colorblind mode that purposely switches all the game's colors in order to account for this. It seems that a lot, and there's, obviously there's the custom built controllers, things like that allow people with physical impairments to still play. But it seems like it's a lot more commonplace. 10, 20 years ago, you wouldn't hear anything about a custom controller made for someone who can't move their arms. But now it's almost commonplace to see that kind of thing.
There's a lot of virtual reality and VR going on right now. Now that may or may not be the future of gaming, but where would you say the future lies in terms of how we consume this new medium of video games?
Well, frankly, the optimist side of me wants to be well, consoles will still be a thing, mobile games will still be a thing. Realistically, what I see happening, VR has gotten huge lately. I mean, all across Canada, there's VR arcades that have been opening. There's one actually in downtown London that I really want to go to, that you could just rent a VR system for an hour and play games, and it's awesome. I've had a blast doing it.
It's so hard to explain how amazing of an experience it is to somebody who hasn't tried it. It's like honestly, it's the closest thing to magic that I could think of.
Yeah.
It really is. It's an amazing experience. Anyone who hasn't tried it, they should definitely check it out.
I highly recommend it. Control V. You can look them up online. It's $25 an hour. It's so worth it. I'd say the best way to describe it is think dreaming, right? How you could do anything you want, but you're not laying in a bed in a semi-conscious state. You're physically there doing the thing. It's really cool. But the way I see it, I feel like gaming's going to kind of skip VR.
Really?
Because there's been a bunch of advancements so there's augmented reality, which is the same principle, but uses cameras in order to build on the existing world, right?
Like Pokemon Go, pretty much.
Yeah, Pokemon Go is a perfect example of that. If you use the AR camera, your Pokemon appear on tables and stuff like that. So they're we're already kind of seeing the bypassing of virtual reality, but there's also been a little bit of advancement in right now the technology is being called neural interfacing, which is basically the concept of taking signals from the brain and forcing signals into the brain to make the viewer see, hear, feel things that aren't necessarily happening, right?
So for the layman, this is basically dreaming a game and playing it through that.
Yes.
Yikes.
Someone builds a game.
That's pretty crazy.
And beams
That
it
is so
directly
crazy.
into your skull. And people give the show a hard time all the time, but SAO is a perfect example of where this tech is going. And I feel like that's the next step, is headsets that hopefully with, the less dying in the game, die in real life thing, but headsets that connect to your brain. So instead of, having to set up crazy amounts of equipment in your room with scanners and risking tripping over things and treadmills and all that. You just lay in your bed, connect to the game, and then your body's just laying there, but you're in this virtual world and you can feel and see and everything.
I can think of some risks with that, actually. Because if it's that real to you and it's some horror game or some war game, is it not possible for someone to feel the PTSD that you would feel in war? Because it's right there. It's not a dream that you wake up from and you forget throughout the duration of the day. It's something that's, for all intents and purposes, it happened.
Yeah.
I've had moments in like games where it's not VR. I'm just playing a regular game and I watch a scene that's like very disturbing or crazy, you know?
Yeah, and it
let alone
like
in BioShock, the first scene where like the girl takes the hook and just slits the dude's throat.
Yeah.
Like, that was intense watching that as a kid, right? Like seeing that in VR would be a whole other experience.
So to see something like that is like witnessing someone murdered.
Oh yeah, for sure. And I've been to the VR Control V a few times. And one time, this was like my third time, right? I had gotten comfortable with the other games. I was like, I'm going to try horror. I regretted that decision immediately. Like, it generally, games don't freak me out. Five Nights, spooky jump scare the first time. Nothing after that, right? Like, I don't get scared. I love playing Slender, for example, just because it's fun to me. And it's fun to watch other people freak out about it. I played this, and it was some zombie survival game. The zombies didn't even look that scary. But what I found with VR is you get so immersed. Every time I've gone, I've ended up punching a wall because I forget that I'm in a booth. But you get so immersed that no matter how unrealistic something seems, it's so real to you. And there was one time where a zombie came after me, and I screamed. Like, in the booth, in this, like, room, I screamed at the top of my lungs. I like pulled the headset off and I was like almost crying. I was sweating. It was horrible. And then I had nightmares for the next like 3 days.
Sounds pretty intense.
Yeah, but it's like it wasn't anything particularly scary when you look back at it. It was a zombie. COD zombies can generally be considered scarier. But because of the fact that you're immersed into that world, it's like the most terrifying thing ever. And I feel like neural interfacing, that kind of stuff, would be even worse.
Scary thoughts, man. I don't know, like going back to the whole idea of where you think VR is going, I don't think that like these mainstream companies like Sony, Nintendo, or Microsoft, I don't like feel like they're going to be the people that really push it, because I think their niche has always just been providing the traditional console gaming experience.
Oh yeah, for sure.
But I definitely think VR does hold a spot in our future, because it is just a medium that provides so much entertainment to a specific group of people that are looking for it, right? Well, in my opinion, I honestly think that Apple, they're gonna like dominate the AR market soon. I feel like I'm predicting this right now. Omar on Collective Journey saying Apple's gonna dominate it. I just think
5 years from now, I'll hold you to that. We'll see what happens.
What about Google?
Oh, Google's going to absorb everything, and it's going to become a singularity. There's no question about that.
Beware of Alphabet.
Because Apple doesn't really have I'm surprised that like a tech company that's been able to influence so many industries. Like they progressed 3D animation, they progressed computers, MP3 players, the music industry. Like they've done so many things, but they haven't really dabbled in gaming too much. But I feel like this is their opportunity.
Definitely. With the boom that is AR, particularly recently, I feel like it's just a matter of time until someone at Apple goes, all our competitors are doing this and it's making them a lot of money. We should try that.
And then release
some sort of tech that puts way too much emphasis on it.
That's literally been Apple's model. It's like I don't find that like a lot of their technology is original. It's just very well done. It's kind of like Naughty Dog games, to be honest. Not to disrespect Naughty Dog as being like an unoriginal company. Like, their games are absolutely fantastic, but it's more about the polish that they provide as opposed to providing new mechanics that haven't been seen before.
Yeah, I feel like Apple's in that weird gray area where sometimes they're the pioneer of this new tech, and other times they're just the guys who took this pre-existing thing and made it better. Like with the iPods, I I can't confirm this for fact, and I mean, you can Google this. If I recall, the Zune.
It was the Microsoft one.
Yeah, that one was out first. And it was, I could be wrong about this, obviously,
I had my little.
This
It was the Zune, though.
I had my little RCA like Lyra MP3 player, and I got my music off of LimeWire, so I wasn't even part of the iPod game at all.
But then Apple was like, we're gonna make this iPod just something better than the Zune, and now whenever you think music players, you think iPod. You don't think Zune.
You know what launched the iPod was like their original commercial. That's what got everyone hooked onto it and got them to try it out.
Oh, yeah.
One of my favorite bands, the Kings of Leon, as they were coming up, they were offered to be the musical artist for that commercial, and they turned it down.
Really?
Wow.
Yeah.
What a bad decision.
I don't know if it was bad. Like, look how they turned out.
Yeah.
Look at you too. Like they were able to like appeal to a whole new generation of people just
because
Apple
they did that one
them.
freebie thing.
Really? I thought everyone hated it. They forced themselves onto everyone's phone.
No, I'm not talking. I'm not talking about the album. Yeah, that album was definitely a very risky decision.
Yeah.
I was talking about the song Vertigo.
Oh,
okay.
Apple, when that song came out, Apple did promoted it a lot with a lot of their commercials for iPods.
Okay.
And I feel like that really drove the success of that song.
okay.
Yeah.
That's what I was referring
But
to.
there was the other side of the coin. Well, obviously, because they don't want to live with any regrets, they viewed it as, well, who's that band that played in that commercial? We don't want to be the band that played for the iPod. We want to be the Kings of Leon.
I guess that's true. It's kind of like in Guitar Hero, like Dragon Force, Through the Fire and the Flames.
Yeah,
I don't even know
it's
who
like-
that band is. I'm just gonna look it up right now.
It's like anyone who, if you hear this, if you say the song Through the Fire and the Flames, people like synonymously associate that with Guitar Hero.
Yeah.
And I'm sure that the band Dragon Force, they probably get really upset about that.
I'm sure the songs existed way longer than Guitar Hero. It's just that was one of the things. Like, for example, another song that's it's kind of the same thing. "Carry On Wayward Son" by Kansas.
Yeah.
That one is big because it's appeared in Supernatural, in South Park, and in Guitar Hero.
Supernatural is the one
South
I know
Park
it
episode
from.
was the best.
I know it from
Randy?
South Park.
It's the journey so far. It's like at the last episode of every season, and that's what they play to recap everything that's happened in the season. It's very iconic for Supernatural, and it ties into the theme as well because the boys, they were born in Lawrence, Kansas,
Oh, okay.
so that's kind of ties the theme all together.
See, I just knew that it appeared in the show and that it was somewhat iconic to the show. I didn't know how.
Yeah, every season.
I just happened to know it from the South Park episode, which was beautiful. Like, if you're under 14, don't watch it because it's South Park. It's not good for children at all. But the episode was hilarious. Easily one of the best ones, in my opinion.
Let me ask you this: you were when you were talking about your game development, like you're one guy and you're working on 3 games.
Yeah.
Like, how do you manage that? Like, how do you manage that? Like, do you have like a process? You just kind of like figure it out. Like, how do you test? Like, who do you consult? Like,
Well, most of them are in such early states that I can't really test it. I can't go, all right, here's a copy of my game, play it. But I mean, what I found my general process to it is that the big game is the open world one that I'm working on. And since the boss rush one is to test mechanics, I go, okay, I want to implement this thing into this game. I'll test it in here. I'll build something in here to see if it works, see if I can make it work at all. And then if it works, I just carry the scripts over to the new game and reformat everything.
So your boss mechanics one, it's kind of like Mario Party in a way, like where I'm just trying because most of our listeners probably don't understand like what WarioWare is or anything like that.
Yeah,
but
that
Mario
one's a
Party
little
might be a
niche.
little bit more relatable. Is it just kind of like a bunch of random short mini games that are just being shot at you that you play?
Sort of. So what it is basically it's boss battles from a bunch of different genres, right?
Mm-hmm.
Some are first-person shooters. Some are like side scrollers, things like that.
Mm-hmm.
So what it is it basically you set how many battles you'd want to go through, say 5, 10, 15, whatever. And it'll just randomly assign you a battle. It might be, first person shooter. It might be a puzzle boss. It might be something else entirely, and it just jumps, like, you finish the boss, yay, you get maybe a 30-second break, you watch a little cutscene or something, on to the next one, and on to the next one, and the next one. And you just kind of jump between.
Okay, it's kind of like, can you make it to the end without dying? That kind of a thing?
Sort of.
Okay.
And you're given, like, 3 lives or 5 lives or however many you set it to when you set up the game.
That's something I really appreciate about games that I don't see in a lot of modern ones, is lives, the concept of lives. Like in Sonic, for example, the original one, you get those 3 lives, and like you get through the entire game, it doesn't matter. If you die, you have to start at the beginning. And like Mario, you have to like start at the beginning of the world if you lose all your lives. But then you have these modern games like Halo and Call of Duty that just give you these checkpoints. It's like, and you can die infinite number of times, and just keep on restarting. I feel like that doesn't give the player the same opportunity to grow or like have that technique more instilled.
Yeah, it feels a lot more trial and error when a game has those checkpoint systems, but 2 games in particular that I'm sad they ditched the live system are Sonic Forces and Mario Odyssey. Like Sonic Forces, they did a lot of things wrong in that game, in my opinion, but one of the things is they ditched lives completely. It just, you lose a bit of score at the end of the level, which for most people doesn't matter. The goal is to get through it as quickly as you can.
Yeah.
You gotta give the player the experience of losing.
But
just so that the experience of winning feels a lot better.
Yeah.
I understand that point from a purist standpoint, but because we've talked about video games, right now and earlier, video games are now more than ever, they're now a medium.
Oh, yeah.
And so they're not just, just within the confines of a game with a set of rules that you follow to get an end result. It's more now an adventure and a journey. And for some people, that's not how they want to consume a game in terms of just a clear black and white goal.
Oh, for sure. And it all depends. I mean, you can look at the boom of open world games and creative based games, Minecraft, stuff like that, as a perfect example of this. But I feel like there should still be the option, like the option to appeal to the older demographic by saying, okay, you can choose to play the game with lives if you think this is how you want to play it instead, or you can choose to play it where if you die, you lose coins, you lose rings, you lose score, whatever. I
do get your point, though, about there being almost an excessive amount of hand-holding to a hardcore gamer. Some games that I can think of that incorporate that give you the option, obviously there's Fallout with the, I don't know what mode it's called, where there's starvation, sleep deprivation.
Oh, that one.
There's also Ghost Recon Wildlands. I think it's like Spec Ops mode or something like that. So if you die, you start over.
Permanent.
Yeah.
Dark Souls.
Oh, Dark Souls.
There's no option.
Let's not get into that.
There's no option to that one.
Yeah, that one's vicious on its own front. But it definitely feels like there isn't the option to take games, to have the same kind of challenge. It feels like there's no punishment if you do stuff wrong. I mean, with the older games, Ninja Gaiden is a perfect example.
Yes,
ridiculously hard.
They punished you for choosing easy mode. They made you wear like some pink sash or something like that.
Oh no, what was it? The Doom and Wolfenstein.
Yeah.
When you're selecting the modes, when it goes like if you highlight the easy mode, it shows your player avatar, and he has like what's the thing that
pacifier?
The pacifier. He's got like a pacifier in his mouth.
Yeah, and the thing is, even like there's the visual representation, but even just the games that back then were like challenging. That was the appeal to it. Is the game was hard. It was bragging rights if you got through it. Whereas new games now, and obviously, when you're playing a game you've never played before, it's like, yeah, you kind of want it to be a little hand-holdy, that way you can learn it. But once you learn it, it shouldn't be hand-holdy the whole way through.
Are there any ways that we can follow your work? Like, do you have any links or any, like...
I use pretty much the same username for just about everything, so, Sonic the 019, usually with a capital S. You can follow my Instagram, although I don't post much there. I don't really post anything to most of my social media and stuff right now because I don't have anything to post. But as I work towards the new stuff, there should be more content.
So, based off of your entire journey through all these creative projects that you like to pursue, what are some lessons that you've learned, or some advice or some wisdom that you'd like to share with our listeners?
Well, the biggest one, as cheesy as it sounds, is don't give up. And I know that one gets thrown around all the time because it's the most accurate and the most easy way to explain something is if something doesn't work, don't just go, well, I tried, it doesn't work anymore. Keep pushing at it. I mean, my game that I've been working at, I've had to troubleshoot everything from my inventory system to just basic sprint mechanics. And sometimes, I can fix it within an hour. Sometimes it takes weeks. But when you keep pushing through, eventually, particularly in creative fields, you'll see results. And I know it's the cliche thing to say, but even if you don't see the results, just keep trying for it. You'll be surprised what you can make.
Yes, and sometimes that work ethic is what sets people apart, because when you look at the highest levels of any endeavor, sports, art, music, acting, everyone's good. To get to that point, you have to be good. You have to be athletic. You have to be creative. And sometimes some people are okay with coasting, but the ones that you really remember are the ones that put in the extra work.
Well, and I find the blunt way to put it, and that's it's the thing that not very many people like to hear, is even though you might be good at something, no one's going to know and no one's going to care unless you put yourself out there,
It's about execution. It's not what you know, it's what you can do.
Exactly.
Yeah, it's not about who has the idea. It's about who puts that idea into action.
Because, if you have an idea for, say, a song or a game or something, and you don't make that immediately, you don't start working at it, eventually someone's going to have that idea and they're going to make something out of it, and, they're going to get success where you wanted it because you didn't push for it. So I'd say the best way to go about it is you want something, work for it,
Put the time in, put the effort in.
Exactly.
You seem to be a very self-taught person. It doesn't look like you learned most of your knowledge from institutions. It seems like you learned it more from just exploration and reading on your own. Can you tell us a little bit about your journey through that?
Oh, well, definitely. I mean, everyone has a different learning style, but I found my style isn't, sit in a class, take notes, sit in a class, do what the teacher asks of you. It's kind of, and that's gotten me in trouble a few times. But my general learning style has always been, if I want something, go out and do it. So, I mean, it's been tough at times. I'm in the process of learning guitar. I kind of suck at it, but I mean, there's some stuff that's way easier to pick up than others compared to, with self-teaching for video games in particular. I mean, 3D modeling, all self-taught. Digital creation of music, all self-taught. Everything there.
And that's just all from going on YouTube, or going on do you read any books? What's a good resource or a set of resources that you would recommend to anybody that just wants to teach themselves?
I mean, me personally, most of it has been, just kind of picking up and doing it and seeing how it goes. But I'd say YouTube is awesome. If I'm trying to build a model or something, I'm like, I want to do this, but I don't know how. I'll just look it up on Google or on YouTube, and usually I'll get an answer pretty quick.
You just have to be able to ask the right question.
Exactly. And I feel like that's where a lot of people have trouble, is they don't search something specific enough. People think, Google's a broad thing. You're not going to be able to find a specific answer. You just got to look for it. This is kind of a more out there term that not people would get, but say lofting, for example, in 3D modeling.
Exactly.
Like, if you want to learn how to loft something, you don't go how to loft. You search how to loft between this and this, and you'll get the result you're looking for.
Yeah, because there's so many different types of lofting that like the models do, right?
Mhm.
And
Well-
it's like, how is Google supposed to know which kind of lofting or which kind of technique exactly you're looking for?
Well, one
all
quote,
it's going to present to you is the most looked up options.
exactly. And the quote that one of my teachers gave today, funny enough, is, especially through Macs, there's 10 ways you could go about doing something. So someone in class was asking a question like, how would I go about this? And I'm like, and he's like, well, I got 10 different answers for you. Which one do you want?
Who's Alan Valley?
Yeah.
Shout out to Alan Valley,
He's
I guess.
awesome.
He's a sick
one of
guy,
my
man. I like him.
favorites.
Thank you for joining us on another episode of The Collective Journey. If you or somebody you know would like to be on the show, hit us up on any of our social media. We are Collective Journey on Facebook. We are Collective Journey on YouTube. We are Collective_Journey on Instagram. And always remember, this is not just my adventure, but it's yours as well. This is our collective journey.